Welcome to the Øredev keynote chats for 2025. I'm Frederick, and as usual, we're publishing our keynote speaker chats from the conference as short episodes. This year, we're releasing all 6 at once, Netflix season style. Also, as usual, links to each keynote and all other relevant information can be found in the show notes. They are in your podcast player right now, or at kodsnack.se, Kodsnack. Now it's time for Simon Wardley, creator of maps, frequently labeled a heretic, and thinker of thousands of ideas. We discuss using maps and models to discover and challenge stories, how graphs are not maps, and a whole lot more. Enjoy.
Oh, wow, loads of notes.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best thing with notes is writing them down and then not looking at them.
I think it's totally evil that you grab people just after, because my brain is usually just dead after giving a talk.
Yeah,
Oh,
doesn't matter.
are you sure I haven't broken things?
Yep.
There we are.
Yeah, we're good. So, welcome to the slightly smaller stage, Simon. And, and thank you for a great keynote.
Oh, thank you. It's a delight and pleasure to be here at Øredev.
Nice.
Ah,
yes.
Fantastic. There we are. They've been trying to get me to come and speak for several years. And it's just things worked out this year.
Yeah.
So it's a delight to be here.
Persistence
Real
paid off.
honor.
Yeah.
Real pleasure.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
Really interesting content as well.
Well, we only had 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I had to choose where we were going to go because there's so many places we could go into the areas of architecture. So I'm doing the session tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through the architecture and how architecture is mostly an illusion. And we'll get into things like vibe coding, software engineering and AI, autonomous agents, etc. And we're also, I'm going to go through the whole Jevons paradox in a little bit more detail and tackle some of the myths that normally come up, like how AI is going to reduce IT budgets and things like this. We'll have a look at that one. And then I want to get into the decision making, mostly because in the engineering world, software engineering is quite unique in the fact that it's actually a craft, not an engineering subject.
Yeah.
And so we'll go into, except for testing. Testing is a proper engineering subject, so I'm going to go through why that is, which I'm sure that'll be interesting. Well, I hope it will be. Well, it's interesting for me. I hope it's interesting for others.
Yeah, I'm interested.
And then I'm going to potentially tackle legacy, and if there is time, which I somewhat doubt, I might get into a bit of space stuff, only because I'm doing some work with a number of different space agencies, people from different space agencies. We're working on mapping out the industry. So if I get a chance, I'll get into that as well. But, so it's nice to do the keynote, but I could only show a bit, and I'll hopefully do a bit more on the session tomorrow.
Yeah, and for people listening later, we will have the videos linked in this episode as well, so people can can look at it all. Because I want to catch up on it as well. So one of the things I thought about, because you talked about mapping here, mapping things out and actually creating a map and not a graph.
Yes,
one of those little aha moments. Like, yes, this is.
So for me, it took me. Because I go through this talk and it looks so like neat, the origin story and how I got into it. But it took me a bit of time to realize that everything that I had, which was called a map, was in fact a graph. Yeah. And one of the ways you can tell is if you take a map and you move a component on a map, if it fundamentally changes the meaning. If you can move it in a way that doesn't change the meaning, that means there's no landscape, space doesn't have meaning, therefore it's a graph. Yeah. And a graph as in nodes and connections between things. And they're useful. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. They are very, very useful. A friend of mine's just published a book on user needs, looking at the question of user needs. And most of the stuff they're using is graphs to do this. Yeah. He actually does mapping. Yeah. Just asking that question and thinking about the users and their needs and thinking about those components, even in a graph form, is better than what many people do.
Yeah, and you also talked about how organizations are driven by stories, and if you challenge a story, that can be extremely sensitive. But
we have courses teaching people to be good, great leaders and great storytellers. Well, that creates a problem.
Yeah, of course.
If you challenge the story, you're challenging that. And execs like challenge.
Yeah.
But what they mean by that is I challenge you, not you challenge me. So the beauty about putting it in a map form is that I can say I think the map is wrong without challenging the person. And it's actually an old architectural trick. It's why the architects produce models, as people can then... they look at the model and they can question, challenge the model. It gets the conversation into a different format.
Yeah, so people or organizations maybe, they're generally receptive to the map? Or is the map like a trick? Or are there some people who are...
Oh, hell no. Maps will get you fired. So I've been doing this for 20 years, and I still haven't written a book on it. There's the online. And it's all Creative Commons anyway. Yeah. So other people take this stuff and they create their own physical books, which I encourage them to do. Yeah. There's an entire community. But if you walk into an organization, it depends on the people and the context. So if you've got a bunch of executives which have military backgrounds, if you sit down and talk about the importance of situational awareness and why we need maps, then that's usually pretty easy. But if you walk into a boardroom and you've got a bunch of executives, none of which have got that background at all, maybe they've done MBAs and things like this, and you talk about situational awareness and maps, it's often, it's like what we want to talk about is strategy. What we want to talk about is the chessboard game of chess without looking at the board. I mean, yes, we should definitely win. Yes, that would be a good idea. Yes, we should definitely move a piece. Yes. But so it takes quite a bit of explaining. And of course, if you've got somebody who's been in that role for quite some time, they can be pretty reluctant to look at those ideas. And of course, they're being successful. So this goes back to the point of that doctrine. It doesn't matter if you don't think about users, user needs, the supply chain, how evolved the components are, the use of different methods. As long as everybody else is just as bad, you can be very successful in a world of people who don't know what they're doing. It just becomes dangerous when somebody comes into the game and does do that.
I guess it's... I guess it can be a bit frightening that someone will map out what you're actually doing if you haven't wanted to think about it yourself or haven't thought about it in that way.
So there was a model I created back in 2005, 2006 called the Innovate, Leverage, Commoditize model. And the AWS book, Reaching Cloud Velocity, which is like 17 pages of mapping, has that model. And it's very simple. You take a product, turn it into a utility, and you expose it through an API. So other people build on top. And then what happens is, so we take compute, turn it into a utility. We'll give it a random name. We'll call it, I don't know, EC2. Other people build on top. You have to build them. So that billing data, that metadata, tells you what's growing, what's not growing. So you get everybody else to act as your free research and development department. You find that 90% of people are doing kit and internet and going nowhere. 10% of people are doing big data and rapidly exploding. So you can mine that metadata to spot what's popular, and then you commoditize that to a new component service. So we'll come out with big data as a service. Let's give it a random name. We'll call it Elastic Map Reduce. And then what happens is everybody cheers because they've got a new service they can use. Of course, those you've eaten the business model go, and you do this annually. And the point about this is that your rate of innovation is now governed by the free research and development department building on top of you. Your ability to spot future patterns depends upon the number of customers building on top of you. And of course, efficiency is economies of scale. So all three, so customer focus, innovation, and efficiency increase as your ecosystem increases. It's a deadly model. And AWS certainly looks like they play a good game of this. China government is brilliant at this as well. And you're starting to see the same sort of gameplay with people like OpenAI as well. See, they have their conference and a bunch of people go, oh, you've eaten my business model, and other people cheer and then keep on building on this environment. Well, they're acting as the free research and development lab.
So one of the things I was thinking of sort of off the side, I guess, when it comes to things moving to commodity. We're talking about, you have AWS, you have serverless, stuff like that. I mean, there can often be, or we at least worry about lock-in effects there. This is commodity. We start using the serverless, and then now we're stuck in Amazon or what have you.
So there's, in order for things to shift to being more of a commodity, you've got to have the concept of providing it. It's got to be suitable, as in widespread, well-defined enough. You've got to have the technology to achieve this, and you need attitude. So you need people really annoyed with the previous way of doing things,
that's usually,
and so they're willing to change. Now, I said there's 150 different forms of gameplay and ways of manipulating market. So as we shift from product to more of a commodity, it's not just the change of the technology, it's the change of the practice. So, we had, best architectural practice, compute as a product, so things like disaster recovery tests, capacity planning, scale up, and we go to this new emerging practice, this is back in 2008-9, distributed systems designed for failure, chaos engines. And so you have inertia to the change because it's not just the technology, it's also the practice, and it could be the business model. And so there's loads of ways of manipulating that. So if you want to slow it down, if you want to speed it up, open source. It's a great way. If you want to slow it down, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Oh, yes.
You just re-emphasize those messages. There's lots of, you don't want to get locked in. What you want to do is buy our servers and everything else in our data center that we provide. I'm getting locked into you there, am I not? We don't want to get locked in. We're a Microsoft shop. Okay, can I? No, we use Oracle. Okay, fine. Okay, so you can reinforce these messages.
So that's the part I was missing. I was just thinking technology, but I could essentially be using something in a commoditized way if I'm using like common practices, common ways of solving things.
Well, you can build your own utility environment. But remember, if they're playing like an ILC model, they get the benefits of the ecosystem building on top, the speed of innovation, customer focus, and efficiency. So it's difficult to keep up with that. Because over time they'll drop the prices, come up with more innovative services, more customer. So, but certainly from the point of view of, you might think for, typical example is sovereignty. People say, we need to keep control of the data centers. Maybe, but it's much better to look at the entire map and determine where your borders should be, where you need to protect. Because I see this, people with AI, large language models, GPTs, people say we need a sovereign one. And what do you mean by that? Well, it needs to run on our data centers. Okay, so the model is going to be trained somewhere else with some other people's embedded values. You have no idea, but you think you're retaining sovereignty because it happens to run on a data center in your... that's not sovereignty. That's called handing over sovereignty because you're embedding yourself in someone's infrastructural model, even if the data center is in your country. So there are lots of ways of creating fear, and often you have to map it out and explain, why that fear is founded or not. And I liked when you got into the various, and at this point you're the heretic again because you say upsetting things. So I'm used to being called heretic.
By everyone at the same time.
When I used to explain to people there was no such thing as a one-size-fits-all in terms of project management, in terms of financing. So, extreme programming. I love extreme programming, but it's good for an environment where change is the norm because it reduces the cost of change. Practices and techniques like Six Sigma or outsourcing are good if you're talking about reducing deviation. So you're talking about utilities. And lean MVP is good when we're trying to learn and reduce waste. So I've got 3 different methods here, which I need to be using all the time. With any complicated system, I identify which methods are appropriate where. And of course, that's going to change as the components evolve. But that doesn't go down well if you're a vendor selling a one-size-fits-all.
I mean, it really was another aha moment for me. I mean, realizing that, we should be using different, at least slightly different process for different parts of our system, because they definitely are in these different areas. This over here is something.
we didn't get into organization. I'm not, even in the session tomorrow, I'm not going to have to do organization. They'll have to invite me back and give me 3 or 4 or 5 sessions, and then we can go through all the different bits. But there we are.
And people were asking questions on the way out of the keynote as well, like, that sounds like another session.
I mean, I shot through the concept of culture, and I just wanted to explain culture is a complicated thing with many, many different components.
Yeah.
Okay? So which is why it's really difficult in language to come up with a definition of culture, which is what, this is why you've had 150 years of arguments with anthropologists, the experts, over what culture means. And the problem is, it goes back to Margaret Mead, language is part of culture, and that leads to Gödel's incompleteness theorem, because no system can be complete and true within itself. And if language is part of it, we have to step outside. So I put up a map of culture.
Yep.
I could do an entire book just on that alone. and I skipped through it, because I just wanted to point out a few things. That's all.
Maybe I need to ask you afterward for a link list I could put into the episode so people can start exploring the tangents.
The problem is I'm terrible at writing books, so I write blog posts. I haven't even finished my own book. All the stuff I do is Creative Commons, and I do write on a Medium, and so there's 19 chapters of a not finished book, which other people have taken and turned into physical books.
Oh, great!
They say, "Do you mind if I do this?" And I'm like, "Go for it." If it helps other people learn, then that's great. And I'm in the process of writing a book with Tudor Gerber on rewilding software engineering, which is where we're going back, and I'm going to talk some of that tomorrow. Where we go into the concepts of decision making, and we look at the issue of tools. But at some point I will actually finish a physical book myself. Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, when the time is right. There's so much interesting stuff all around.
Well, the thing about also you have to remember with maps is that all maps are imperfect representations.
Yeah, they should be.
So they have to be be useful. So if you wanted to create a perfect map of Malmo, it would be the size of Malmo. And as a map, that's pretty useless. Particularly since somebody would move something, and that would make... So you have to accept that in order to be useful, all maps are imperfect representations of the space. But, that's fine. It can be lines and pebbles in sand to describe. They enable us to share a context and have a conversation about a space. And, one of the problems, I say, with, it's the storytelling and the leadership bit. The difficulty with challenging stories is it's wrapped up with leadership. If you can get it into a map, it becomes much easier to challenge. And, of course, being imperfect, we accept it's imperfect.
I mean, it's
double win.
It's so easy to forget as well. And I mean, same thing about we need to write a better specification next time. I mean, so the point isn't to have all.
I'm going to talk. So there's some things which I like, particularly some of the areas of specification-driven development. So I'm going to talk about specifications because there's some things we specify, and some areas you look on the map we have to learn. Now, what you can do is change your specification into a learning document. So as you are learning about the space, it's being... And so that's why I like some of the stuff around specification-driven development. And I will talk a little bit about that. No spoilers tomorrow.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to that one as well. But of course, it's a difference between writing down a specification and writing down stuff you're learning and figuring out.
So I think there are some good moves. I quite like the AWS's moves in the space as well. So I think that's quite interesting. I don't work for them or anything like that, but I'm quite, because I'm independent of, I can quite happily say I disagree or I agree. So I'll talk about that tomorrow.
Sounds good. I guess we're roughly out of time.
Are we out of time?
We
didn't get onto space or anything along those lines. Or
you want to say something about space so that you won't have the opportunity to say?
So I do a lot of mapping in terms of not just individual projects, but industries as well. And so I'm currently doing some work mapping out the space industry. Before that, I've done things like construction, healthcare, telecoms. We did education, manufacturing itself, agriculture, about 17 different industries.
Yeah.
So including gaming and cyber and even the AI space. And so I often use these maps. I'll get a group of like 30 to 70 people together. And we'll, first of all, talk about what's important. And then we'll group it into themes, and then we'll map from different perspectives, break off into groups, map from different perspectives. And the reason why you map from different perspectives, it's a bit like if I sent a group of people to map Malmo, say there were no maps of Malmo, they might come back and say, I'd ask, what's the most important feature in Malmo? They might point me to a pizza shop, because they mapped it from a perspective of nice places to eat pizza.
Yeah, sure.
Okay? But what will happen is if I take many different maps from different perspectives, then things like the turning torso would start to stand out because they'd appear in several.
Yeah.
Or the Malmo Civic Library, which, by the way, the cathedral light is fantastic. It's so important. Libraries are soul of a city. Yeah. So really, really spectacular. And so what I will do is I will do this with things like healthcare and education. We'll map from different, so healthcare, we'll map from things like clinical pathways to, drug trials or something along those lines. So we'll map from different perspectives. And then we'll ask, where's important to invest for market benefit and social benefit? Yeah. And then we'll aggregate. And what you discover is that in these industries, it's extremely rare that market benefit and social benefit align. So, for example, in healthcare, for social benefit, the top two things would be patient-reported outcome measures and sharing medical data. So we don't actually have healthcare systems, we have sick care systems. So we're good at treating symptoms. Yeah. And we record clinician-reported outcomes. We don't do patient-reported, so we don't look at what makes people healthy. So you'll get the same people come into the doctors, they'll treat them for symptoms. They know they send them back into the same environment, they'll be back again with the same sickness. It's great for clin-oros. We treated this symptom, that, but it's not great for healthy. No. So from a social benefit point of view, it's things like patient-reported outcome measures, sharing medical data. From a market point of view, you'd invest in preventive medicine, even though we don't quite know what makes a person healthy because we're not recording it, and use of AI, which and you get this with education as well. So education, social benefit, the number one thing to focus on would be critical thinking. Yeah. But we don't teach critical thinking, which is a real shame, except for with the stuff they're doing in China, where everybody talks about them teaching kids how to use AI. It's part of their critical thinking syllabus.
So interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they identified critical thinking as a core competency for the Ministry of Education 2018.
Yeah, we should have done that.
And we should do. So in space, the space industry is really bizarre because social and market benefit both overlapped. And it's all about in-orbit operational capability. So once you've identified that, then we'll go and map and explore that further. And that's what we're doing at the moment.
Exciting stuff.
It's really fascinating.
Mapping into space.
Yeah, I mean, because we get into all sorts of wonderful technologies and different materials and the importance of data and the fact that we occasionally, there was a satellite we lost, we'd only recently discovered it, etc. And then you get into sort of, particularly in orbit operations, because when we think about people want to colonize and go to Mars or whatever, that's going to either need factories in space or a lunar presence to get anywhere close to that. So it's an interesting topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's another talk.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, we can do education, healthcare, agriculture is fascinating as well because our agricultural systems are driven by profit, not by food productivity, which changes where we invest and how we do things. And obviously, with poor awareness of the supply chains, with the likes of Brexit, the Ukraine conflict, and all the rest of it, we get various shocks to the system, which we could be prepared for, but we're not. Yeah. And we tend to have to react.
Yeah.
That's another talk as well. All right, so if they invite me back and give me 7 talks, then there we are.
I'm thinking Wardley Conf or something.
Well, we do a map conference every 2 years, and so we're probably going to do one next year.
Oh, cool.
But we do it virtually online. It'd be nice to do a physical event again, but they're so risky, so expensive, and everything else. My pockets aren't that deep.
No. There's always more that could be done if only. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, Simon. This was great.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Big thanks for listening to Kodsnack. If you want to support us, leave a review in your podcast player of choice, or just tell someone who might like the podcast about an episode. And don't forget you can come hang out in our Slack channel. A link is in the sidebar right on our website at kodsnack.se. Once again, big thanks for listening. Talk to you later.
Let me put it this way, Mr. Raymer. The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error.